On this momentous week, the fourth anniversary of Russia's full-scale invasion of Ukraine, I'm delighted to welcome back, I think, one of the favorite guests on the channel, and indeed, of course, one of my favorite too. We have Anna from Ukraine. I won't go into a huge, great description here because I think everyone knows Anna, her expertise, her academic background, her insights into Russian propaganda, and of course, the Russian mindset and imperial history. But I think it's especially important to have a conversation today about these things. Anna, welcome back.
Thank you so much for having me and for creating this extremely precious environment of Friends of Ukraine. And together during all these 4 years, I believe we've achieved a lot. So thank you so much, Jonathan, and your community.
Thank you, Anna. That's a difficult question, isn't it? Because I know we've had a big impact, but it's difficult to imagine the world even worse than it currently is. It's difficult to imagine what things might have been like if we hadn't made these efforts, plus all the other creators in this community. They've helped to bring a lot of people on board to understand why this just isn't, a war or a civil war, a war between two former Soviet countries, etc. And, it's shades of grey. Well, we've been able to help to explain to people it's not. It's absolutely morally unambiguous. It's black and white. Nonetheless, things have not necessarily gone as well as they could have gone. And I think that's what we're going to talk about in this episode. What have we learnt? What could have happened that perhaps would have meant that we never met this fourth anniversary, that the war ended sooner? I don't know what your thoughts are to start that.
In Ukraine, to survive, you need to be a realist and a mixture of a realist and an optimist. Because, of course, I can name a lot of really wrong decisions that prevented Ukraine from protecting ourselves better, from destroying more Russia production sites of missiles, let's say, and developing more strategies to defeat this evil and thus protect many more countries. But we prefer to focus on our achievements and the things that we managed to do together with our friends, because I think one of the greatest miracles of this resilience is our unity in Ukraine and our unity with friends around the world who stand with us, even when some leaders temporarily shift or hesitate. And honestly, I think we do not talk enough about these exposed weaknesses of the Russian Federation, and that back in 2022, 4 years ago, no one could have thought that Ukraine not only would stand all these years, but actually, I think since 2024, we systemically bring war back to the Russian Federation. And every week, the skies above Moscow are closed because the Ukrainian drones travel to do some job deep inside the Russian rear. And all of these weaknesses, they keep being exposed. And I do feel that during these 4 years, despite all the tragedies, all the violence that we have to go through literally on a daily basis, we became stronger as a country, as an army, as people. And Russia, just the country, they are losing the things that were basic for the survival of the Kremlin regime. And I feel disappointed that so many people who claim to be experts on the USSR, on the Russian Federation, still judge it by the terms of 2008 or 2010, unable to dive deeper to analyze important social processes that are taking place in Russia, to listen to their vloggers whining and begging Kremlin to stop, to see how more and more businessmen and oligarchs are actually frightened with inadequate decisions of Putin, who I am sure knows very little about the Russian reality, just as they knew very little about the Ukrainian realities when back in 2022 began the full-scale invasion, hoping that 90% of Ukrainians would support. And this resulted first in the failed blitzkrieg and now in extremely exhausting war that I believe will destroy the Russian Federation faster than they expect to destroy us or the unity among our Western partners.
And I think one of the key ideas here, and it ties in the fact that this is still going, if Vladimir Putin was a great strategist, if Vladimir Putin was an intellectual of some sort, or a political intellectual or a heavyweight, he may not have conducted this war. He may have conducted the war, but not done it in the way that he actually conducted it. That could be far dangerous because he might have done it more effectively. But the fact here we are, 5 years on, he is depleting his sovereign wealth fund. He has depleted Russia's soft and starting to deplete its hard power, its resources, and indeed, as you say, the pillars that hold the regime up, is starting to sort of deconstruct some of those. None of this is strategic. Unfortunately, that seems to me to suggest that he does not have the brains, the intelligence, or the character to reverse course or change course. He's like a super tanker with the steering broken. And it seems to me that he's just going to carry on attacking, attacking, attacking until his regime, his country is utterly exhausted, even destroyed.
I totally agree with you, and I think there are some things we can focus on a little bit more. First of all, unfortunately, many of smart people abroad know very little about Putin and his personality. They do love conspiracy theories about whether it's a real Putin or not, how many doubles does he have, which I believe he does have. But not being able to speak Russian, not watching his everyday speeches and this like typical management style, not knowing enough about his personal career, his history, his relatives, his family relations, lovers, and so on, they build this image of a way stronger villain. They think he is clever. They think he's a little bit academic. I even come across such context like, oh, he's very smart. He knows a lot. No, he's just a typical bandit from the 90s, a person from the system serving in KGB, FSB, and actually in its worst departments, fighting people inside Russia, not doing something important, but simply observing and reporting on
Just
friends and
abusing
colleagues.
people, harassing and abusing
Yeah,
people. That's
and
basically the job.
reporting on friends and colleagues. This is a kind of job not many even in FSB want. So his nickname was Moth, right? You don't get one for being an eagle. And so this is one big mistake that people make. They believe that Putin is big, strong, and I don't know, alpha, how do you call it? Alpha male. No, he was the one carrying a suitcase behind the mayor of St. Petersburg, and that's why he has a lot of evil and jealousy towards successful people, for example, like President Zelensky. And you might have noticed that recently our president speaks about the need to meet, not because he wants to see Putin or he wants to stab Putin, which would be possible, but because he realizes Putin will never agree on that. Putin will never agree to stand near Zelensky. Just imagine how that will look.
Yeah.
Another
He
aspect.
never will he? I mean, it's just
Yeah,
it's
yeah, well,
impossible to imagine. It's
yeah,
not going to happen.
yeah, 100%. Then we all know that Putin rules Russia for a quarter of a century. A question on a sidewalk, why nobody's talking about the need of elections in Russia. But let's forget about this right now and let's agree that after 25 years of reign, even if you are super professional, a very just person, running your own business, you do lose some adequacy, you do lose some competition. And that's why most of high positions demand rotation. It doesn't mean you have to disappear. You may start doing something different. You may be an advisor. You may develop another sphere. You may go, I don't know, to Euro Parliament or elsewhere. But you do need to change your position after 8, 10 years because you lose the grasp, you lose the understanding. And in Russia, his regime grew only more authoritarian. He developed this network of control over his colleagues, and I'm sure he does not have real advisors. And we all know it's important, like we advise each other, right, Jonathan? And our viewers advise us a lot, and that's normal, that's healthy. I believe that nobody is ready to tell Putin the truth. And even when somebody tells him the truth, he does not take it seriously, he does not accept it. He chooses the version of reality he wants. And that is what constantly destroys his plans, that destroyed the Blitzkrieg, that We may openly say that all of his military aims failed, beginning with demilitarization of Ukraine and finishing with the NATO borders between Russia and
which have
Finland and
doubled
Sweden.
in
Yeah, which is
scale.
double.
Yes.
That's why he is a master strategist, as we say it. So he does not listen to his advisors, or they do not tell him anything. And that's why and more of these evil people who are not friends of Ukraine, who don't care about the international law or this responsibility for the Russian war crimes, but who care about their personal survival, about their income, about the future of the Russian Federation, started, I don't know, panicking. And you can see Deripaska and other Russian oligarchs speaking loudly against Putin's tax policy, against the destruction of so many businesses inside Russia. You can see military experts and bloggers, including Solovyov, who now keep enumerating failures and asking, what should we do next? Maybe we need a strategic pause or something like that. And I will sum up with perhaps the most important confession. Everybody in Ukraine feared that when Donald Trump returned to the office, he did offer Putin a perfect solution of this stalemate, of this war of attrition that destroys Russia. He offered him a lot of mechanisms to pretend that Russia is winning, to push Ukraine to give up some territories, to lift sanctions. And Putin's task was just to agree on something, or at least on something, to pretend that he's cooperating. And if he did that, we all in Ukraine, in Europe, would be in a very big trouble, because the White House administration would describe it as, oh my God, we've achieved such a breakthrough. Putin agreed on this, and you want to continue war. And it would be very manipulating. It would distort public opinion and maybe unity among the allies. But Putin was mad enough not to agree, not to use this opportunity, not to save his economy, because he, and many of his, by the way, former friends, oligarchs, describe him as not normal when talking about Ukraine, that he has some kind of almost sexual obsession with our country, and he does not take responsible steps or adequate to the reality.
As
And that
Russians would describe it, a sort of little punktik in his head,
a
a
big
little
punctic,
obsession.
it's a
Yeah.
very big punctic. It's a huge obsession. And actually, to this from the strategic point of view, that's good. He keeps destroying Russia faster. We have to understand that for Ukraine, this is an existential fight, and we have honest dialogue inside our society. And for Russia, it was not about the survival, it was about the reconstruction of the imperial past. And now Putin openly demonstrated that he's not fit to be an emperor. And he's not fit to be the Kremlin dictator anymore, because he failed to guarantee that illusion of stability to the Russian population. And now, actually, 2025 was the record-breaking year for protests in very different Russian regions. They have 83 federal subjects, and literally in each of them during 2025, they had at least one protest. Unbelievable.
And that for a country that is infamously passive, that is quite an extraordinary achievement. Now, this, if Putin and those he surrounded himself with had some competence, if, and I'm going to make a sort of odd comparison here, but we have to think back to the Second World War and Stalin. Stalin, an extremely brutish man, a psychopath in many respects. But in the context of the Second War, he made some tremendous mistakes, and then he started to not make as many mistakes, which allowed Russia to turn things around, or allowed the Soviet Union rather to turn things around. Because, of course, a lot of the worst action was on the territory of Ukraine and Belarus, and indeed there were
Main
hundreds,
theater of war.
yeah, and there were millions, of course, of Ukrainians in the Red Army and suffered the highest losses. But he was able to make some strategic decisions. The Molotov-Ribbentrop Pact, as reprehensible as it is an extraordinary piece of strategic statecraft. The relocation of the industrial might of the Soviet Union to the Urals to be able to kick it off almost, from scratch is an extraordinary turnaround. The fact that he stopped shooting his own commanders and started to give a little bit of agency to some of them to make decisions, at least in the context of the war. This suggests that he at least had some kind of strategic mode of thinking. It makes me think that thank goodness Putin has none of these whatsoever, or else this invasion, not just of Ukraine, might have gone very differently, but we might already be deep in some kind of confrontation in Europe as well.
Yes, you are right. And we have to remember that Putin is still dangerous and he uses various mechanisms, not only of war, against Ukraine, against the European Union, against the United Kingdom, against the United States. And honestly, he is way better in such special operations, in such terrorist acts as we recently had in Lviv, which was definitely coordinated from the Kremlin. And their task is to
It was
make
horrific, wasn't it? I mean, I saw some of the videos from that. It's
yeah, and
terrifying.
it's make and unfortunately we expect that many similar things may happen because that is the typical FSB strategy where Putin is actually way better by making people feel panic, fear, and hoping that Moscow, for example, can bring stability here. And if you are tolerant to the regime, you can survive. Forgetting that to come to power in Russia, Putin also did terrors in many Russian cities to legitimize the war against Chechnya, the Second Chechen War. And honestly, he was way more successful with such terrorist operation, FSB operations in disgust, very in disgust, in disguise. Well,
In
and
both, in disgust as
in
well, whatever
both,
you.
yeah, in disgusting disguise and influence, political influence, because these February days they are very dark here from this like weather perspective and also from the history, modern history, beginning with the Heavenly Hundred execution, which also took place 18th, 19th, 20th of February, and we commemorate them, we think about them. And these waves of Russian trolls keep saying that Maidan was a coup. Yanukovych was a coup. Yanukovych figure was a Russian puppet brought here to help Putin finalize the silent annexation of another former Soviet republic, just as they did with Belarus. And I keep reminding people that the Minister of Internal Affairs of Ukraine, the Minister of Education of Ukraine, the head of SBU, and the Prosecutor General were Russian citizens with Russian passports. And when you learn this kind of information, how can you say that protests of the Ukrainian people who simply supported the development of country in this EU trajectory was a coup when they actually infiltrated and put Russian citizens in control of this central for the defense of the country ministries and institutions. So I believe that it is always our resilience and Russian way to to underestimate, to diminish other nations that keeps destroying Putin's plans. And now, with such a prolonged period of problems and destructions, I believe that irreversible mechanisms for the destruction of the imperial project have already been, activated.
Now, we've had dozens of incredible conversations over these 4 years, and you asked me to do something for your upcoming episodes. Well, that will be going out at the same time as this, I think,
Yeah.
on what we've learned, what's made the biggest impact. Well, I'm going to turn that around and ask you that question. 4 years without full-scale war, I presume you may not even have started a YouTube channel. You would have been doing different things and living a very different life. But what are your big learnings from 4 years?
Mm, Well, like on this personal level, is that the world knows very little about the so-called Eastern Europe, Central Europe, about the former USSR countries, which I hate naming post-Soviet, just as we don't name post-Nazi countries. We were trapped in that communist BS, and we were among the first to destroy it and to make the world a safer place. And I see there are tons of very interesting topics. Somehow, human mindset loves dark periods of history. And I believe there are a lot of things we can share, we need share. And I'm very grateful that you are on the same boat. And your expertise is unique here. And that's why I love YouTube. I love the opportunity that people give me by choosing to know this truth, by choosing to watch these videos. And I feel like I've got the mission. That's what I like. But I would like to focus perhaps on a different national conclusion, more important one. And it may be surprising because I may say some good things, like we've turned out to be Brazilian. I'm very proud of my nation. I know a lot of things that we screw, but in general, I feel that we are adults on this planet. I do not feel shy or sorry for the things that my army does or my politicians do. At least I don't feel humiliated by their words or decisions. I feel that, like, yes, they are mine, and I'm okay that I'm a part of this country, and I feel proud quite often. But I think the most important conclusion that we all have here is that there are no real security guarantees apart from your personal national strengths, your ability to speak the things that are necessary, your quick adaptability and reaction to the modern 21st warfare. The thing that you can negotiate about support, you can inform people about the dangers, but at the same time, you have to keep building everything by yourselves in the backyard. You have to share this information with those who are your true friends and who want to protect themselves, because more and more countries in Europe do not need additional proof that they are also in danger if, for example, the North Atlantic Alliance is broken, just as Putin goes full in, all in this project right now. And the fact that Ukraine needs to be a very strong and very militarized country for the decades to come. Any ceasefire, any even victory will not guarantee that in 10, 20, 50 years, another crazy dictator in the Kremlin will not try to reconstruct another Frankenstein on these lands. It may take decades or centuries for Russia to lose its imperial ambitions, to forget this thirst for the blood of its neighbors. That's why I believe we need to accept this mission, and more people here in Ukraine understand that the end of this war and even the Ukrainian victory, the collapse of the Kremlin regime, does not bring us this total safety and security, like you can relax forever and forget about your army, forget about your military. We understand that in future Ukrainian soldiers need to be very strong. This need to become a very popular profession choice among the young. We need to give them the best salaries. It has to be prestigious. You have to want to marry a soldier, you have to want to become a general. It has to be something that hundreds of thousands, if not millions, of Ukrainians can aspire logically, financially, physically, morally, spiritually. And I believe that the European Union, if it also survives these turbulent times, or any other union that will appear on this lands, must support this, because I see that not many nations who don't want to fall under Russia are ready to fight against this. So, finally, I honestly feel that Ukraine has become an asset, not a burden. Back in 2022, in 23, I had to provide these arguments why you need to let Ukraine survive, to let Ukraine continue the fight for our independence. And now, honestly, I feel that I need less and less of such talks because people know. Yes, just like it's a question of resources, it's a question of determination, bravery, but no explanation is needed. So we need to accept this fate, this burden, or this asset and live accordingly and choose presidents and politicians who will know that, who will continue strengthening the Ukrainian army, and this will be just the benefit for all of us living close to the reshaped or not reshaped Russian Federation because it may take really long. And in this tolerant society that is not prepared to develop, like any cognitive operations within the Russian Federation, to work seriously with the generations of poisoned by the Kremlin propaganda people as they did work with. And here I will say post-Nazi Germany. So we need to be prepared to, like, prevent any potential ideas from the Kremlin to extend their empire westwards.
And this was interesting. I saw a speech or an event by Mark Galeotti, a historian who Ukrainians perhaps do not treasure, as they may treasure some other figures. And he's positioned as an expert on Russian criminality and on Prigozhin and Wagner and Putin and Vorozakonya, and all the Soviet criminality. Um, and I thought it was quite an interesting speech, but an extremely dangerous one because he was saying the the greatest likelihood actually is that after the war, Russia will revert to a leader who is just a thief, not an imperial psychopath and thief, but just a thief. They'll go back to that everyday banditry and criminality. And then he came out with a phrase, and that's good because we know how to deal with that. And that really set my alarm bells ringing because it's quite clear to me from this 4 years of war, we do not know how to deal with that. And indeed, if we let our guard down again, then that corrupt money, that corrupt culture will seep back in and further erode our weakened democracies. So I'll put a clip to there in the description, but I found it a deeply troubling analysis.
Well, I agree, and I think that in general, people know very little about this criminal background of Russia, about the role of prisoners in this war, and that actually thousands of the Russian soldiers fear their comrades way more than they fear the Ukrainian soldiers, who actually offer them quite comfortable. This like prisoners of war or programs that we have that for those who want to surrender and to save their lives, they feel way better. And right now, there are tons of videos that, by the way, Russian vloggers are sharing about Russian soldiers being robbed, being raped, being tied to trees by their comrades, by their commanders. And this acts very demotivatingly because the army of Prigozhin himself was the army of prisoners, and the level of this no ordinary offenders, but serial killers, people with 20, 30 years in prison is really big. And this does not demonstrate the health or the morale in their army. And I'm sure that knowing about this violence and crimes, ordinary people should feel sorry for their army because you have to be proud of your army to be a strong state, to be admired, to be respected by the future generations. And that's not what they have in Russia. And once again, Putin is the one of the richest persons, one of the most criminal person. The corruption level is insane in Russia, and we don't hear people talking about that. We see like, I don't know why Russia is treated even among the supporters of Ukraine, among the supporters of Putin's defeat, as something like sacred and untouchable. No one's discussing openly the state of their economy, the state of their military, some protests inside. It's as if Russia will never change and it's just like constanta or something. It's so wrong because just before the collapse of the USSR, people had very similar comments, including the presidents of the United States or CIA leaders. And here we come back to this option that many fear, but it may be inevitable, the collapse or at least defragmentation of the Russian Federation. That may give a chance to some countries to develop some types of democracy. And you know that on the channel, I often interview leaders of free nation movements. I have conversations with them, and they say, why on earth do these global leaders keep rebooting relations with the Russian Federation when such monstrous, largest country in the world simply cannot be run democratically? And why don't they want to give chance to Buryats, to Chechens, to build a trustworthy society they can cooperate with, trade with? And they keep telling, well, who will control the nuclear weapons? And the collapse of the USSR gave some wrong or right solutions and options. And please understand that no, it is not Kadyrov, crazy Kadyrov, who will control or get access to the nuclear weapons, because Kadyrov is the product of Putin's regime. And the moment Putin disappears, Kadyrov disappears too. And then we have to be responsible. We do have to predict any potential defragmentation of the Russian Federation. We do have to support people who want their independence, to build some roadmaps so that when it happens, it is strategically safe for us too. And trying to close our eyes and to pretend that somehow the democracy will be born in Russia. No, they have never tasted it. It's just like not talking to your child, not teaching him to read and hoping that one day he will. No, so I do agree with these Free Nations leaders who say, finally, you should listen to us. You should give us a chance. Maybe some analog of the European Union is possible on the territory of the reshaped Russian Federation.
And one for a longer conversation, perhaps, on how that might happen. But there are some interesting ideas. At the moment, China is perceived to be the great enemy, but people forget that in the 1950s, 1960s, it was Russia and China that were at each other's throats. And Russia has continuously tried to keep China down as a power, including a nuclear power as well. And of course, the US sided with China at some point to help build it up and divide and conquer, as it were. And that strategy worked. Well, I don't preclude the idea that that could happen again under a different US administration. And then Russia's in real trouble if the two remaining superpowers were to unite and tell it the game is over, the imperial game is over. And, I don't see a path to how that would happen, but it's not impossible, certainly. Before we go, there's a question I wanted to ask you here because there's lots of stuff we learnt. And what I said to you in the video I recorded is my biggest discovery is simply Ukraine and simply Ukrainians. People who are willing to put everything on the line for freedom, volia, self-expression, self-organization, and are not willing to trade any of that for security, comfort, etc. That's an extraordinary revelation, which I think the
There
world
is
is.
no security if you don't have freedom.
No,
If you give
exactly.
up your
It's
freedom, there is no
illusory.
security.
I think the world still doesn't quite understand that and still doesn't understand Maidan, which we talk about a lot. I see that as a huge historical event that will come to be seen as significant as, say, 1968, 1848, and the great revolutionary periods of history. My question to you is, let's go back to the start of the full-scale war and this phrase, which wasn't necessarily criticized at the time. Now it seems to me that it contains so much strategic weakness, that it is such a cover for inaction, that it doesn't define any outcomes and therefore has led to where we are now. And that is the phrase that many world leaders used, which is as long as it takes.
Yeah. Um, I don't wish like anyone to hear this kind of information when talking, I don't know, about your medical plan or about your business plan. It does not give optimism, right? Even if you think about it. And I
That's
think
right, you've got
that,
a terrible disease. We're not going to do anything about it. We'll just hang in there for as long as it takes to
yeah.
die.
So once again, I think that this leaders kept being surprised with Ukraine because I don't want to be skeptical, but I believe a lot of societies might have given up long ago. But it's not only the Ukrainian resilience and spirit, it's also the knowledge of what Russia is and what happens on these occupied territories that makes us more confident in the need to defeat this evil and not to negotiate our prolonged death. And I think that we all need more, not negotiation talks, which are fake. And the moment they become real, there will be signs like no history teachers in the negotiation group, ceasefire, and so on. But what we need is this public discussions, global discussions on how we see the maximum victory, the minimum victory of Ukraine and its allies. What are the acceptable conditions? What are the unacceptable conditions? That's what we are working here inside Ukraine. And I think we should talk about that on the global level. And once again, not treating Russia as a party of this war or conflict, but treating Russia as the aggressor, as the war criminal, as the country responsible for the literal genocide of one of the largest nations in Europe in the 21st century that happens online, that has enough evidence. So it's not negotiable that Russia must be defeated, that Putin and other war criminals have to be held accountable, and we cannot stop until this aim is achieved. And then we may negotiate what can be done to dezombify the Russian population, how can we limit the Russian army, because it's the army of the aggression that in peace agreements is limited, not the army of the country that defends itself and the international law, and many other aspects. And people are afraid to talk about this. And I think that even talks might have influenced people around Putin also a lot and increase the level of panic and chaos in the Kremlin inner circles. And that might be good for our victory in future.
And coming into this fifth year of the war, this might sound insensitive in some ways, but I'm very aware of the extraordinary suffering and pain and sacrifices being made. But it seems to me that entering this stage of the war, Ukraine is strengthening, and Russia is weakening. And I don't mean it, relatively speaking. When you look at the technological developments, the drone skills, transparency of the battlefield, the attrition rates, the casualty rates of Russian forces compared to what we know of Ukrainian casualty rates. Despite the extraordinary hardships, it seems that actually the momentum is now with Ukraine and not with Russia.
I fully agree with you. Of course, it's very difficult and tragic every day here in Ukraine, but if we look from the strategical point of view, we clearly see that Russia has no new gains at all, no aims achieved. And just the country. We've already mentioned like the destroyed oil and gas industry, 50% drop in the federal budget revenues, dozens of Russian regions as an active war zone, Ukrainian drones able to control the skies over the European part of the Russian Federation. More and more protests arising, inability to pay salaries in many regions, halved payments to the Russian war criminals, the danger of the general conscription, which may be deadly for the Putin's regime. Their losses. In January, we managed to neutralize more Russian soldiers than they managed to conscript, like 9,000 more. And well, they keep using terror, hoping that, people in cold apartments in Kyiv will decide that they want to join Putin. Of course not. It doesn't work like that with Ukrainians. It only highlights how far away they are from the understanding of the Ukrainian mindset. And we know that the spring will come, and we know that the Russian budget is empty, not just empty, it's negative. We know that their soldiers here are not for the ideological purpose, but for money. We we have access to that Telegram channels, and they are closing Telegram channels for Russians once again, not to hide the success and victories, but to hide the realities, to prevent people from organizing more apolitical protests, but still protests dangerous for Putin's regime. So, of course, strategically, Russia is losing and losing very, very much. And I feel disappointed as a Ukrainian that many global leaders keep pretending they don't notice it, just as they kept pretending they didn't notice that the Soviet Union will collapse. And honestly, it's just so unjust, unfair that these big countries very often work really hard to save Russia or to save Moscow out of trouble when they need to understand that this kind of empires do not survive in the 21st century. And it's not even whether you sacrifice Ukraine or not, this monster will collapse. So the only thing we can do is to demilitarize it, to safeguard the territories around, and to develop a plan on how this fragmentation can be led by normal national elites within this country. Try to identify them, try to develop this roadmap, and when the process is more or less controlled, it is not dangerous. The same as it was with the collapse of the USSR. Many feared it, but I'm sorry, it was way less violent than what we experienced after Moscow decided to reconstruct the project. It was attack on Georgia, with attack on Chechnya, with attack on Moldova, and with constant attacks on Ukraine and hybrid attacks on so many European countries and the United States. I'm sure of that.
Absolutely. You just have to look at the peace and affluence that
Mm.
has been established across those territories which were formerly part of the USSR. And ironically, the Yugoslavia was not part of the USSR. It was a sort of mini empire of itself that had a traumatic breakup. Anna, let's make a commitment this year to talk a lot more on this topic because I think this is the number one most important thing, which is preparing for and indeed accelerating and encouraging the fragmentation, collapse, and categorization of the Russian Empire to the trash bin of history. And I think more people in positions of power need to understand this.
I like this plan, and I believe it can help a lot to understand the basics of the process and maybe inspire some decision makers to support this inevitable natural process of the dissolution of the monstrous Russian Federation.
On that note, thank you for this episode and for your commitment to continue these conversations, and especially that one throughout the year. Anna, slava Ukraini.
Heroям слава! Thank you so much.